Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the called meeting of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, January 12th, 2026. I'd like to invite Danny Lance from True Life Church, if he'll come forward, provide our invocation, and lead us in our pledge. If everyone to stand if able.
Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for everything. For your word tells us that every blessing comes from you, every good and perfect gift. We're particularly thankful tonight, Lord, for these leaders, these servants of the public that have given their time, their effort, their energy to try to make our city better and better. And we're so thankful for the progress we've seen. I pray your protection over them and over all of our first responders. I pray for wisdom tonight, Lord, as they face tough decisions. They face important decisions that will have years of ramifications. And I just pray, Lord, for your spirit to guide everything that's done tonight. May it bring honor and glory to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call, Ms. Dietrich.
Mayor Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor Tyler,
Here.
Councilmember Cagle,
Here.
Councilmember Ezell,
Here.
Councilmember Witt,
Here.
City Manager Miller,
Here.
City Attorney Litchford.
Here. All right, I welcome everyone tonight for this special called meeting for the interviews for the city manager candidates. So I would like to kind of explain just a little bit. So how the interview process are. We will have one candidate at a time come in here to the dais. We'll have them sit over here to the right. We'll ask each candidate to introduce themselves, and then we'll rotate through the council members asking questions to the candidate. We'll cycle through 5 rounds of questions from each council member. The rule of thumb is when interviewing the interview candidate questions, we ask that you ask the same questions from one candidate as you do the second candidate as they come in. Any questions?
Just to make sure that 5 is just a number, we don't have to do
5's a number.
Right.
It was a recommended number, so we can ebb and flow. Remember, that'll be 25, and then we'll do it again for 25 if we do 5 or more. There is a communications from citizens after the interviews are completed, and the council has a follow-up discussion regarding the candidates and the appointment. We're open to citizens' comments. However, I do ask that statements and comments are respectful when they're referencing the candidates. So, with that being said, we're going by alphabetical order. We will now bring in Kevin Owens. Yeah, right over here. Yeah, we're gonna bring you up. Welcome, sir. We appreciate your interest in East Ridge and you coming to interview for us. So it's greatly appreciated. I'd like to first start off by asking you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then we will begin a round of questions, one from each council member, and then we'll circle through 5 or so iterations.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and citizens of East Ridge. My name is Kevin Owens. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, but pretty much raised in Birmingham, Alabama, and that is where I received most of my education. I later went off to college in Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia, and at that time, I did receive a Master's of Public Administration. I've been working in city government for about 26 years now. Worked 20 years with the city of Birmingham. In the mayor's office, I worked under 4 different mayors. I later went to Tuskegee, worked under Mayor Haygood, and then eventually ended up in Fayetteville, Tennessee, which I have served as city administrator for the last 4 years. And grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll kick this off, and then I'll go probably to Vice Mayor, then I'll go to Councilmember Cagle, and then I'll go to Councilmember Witt, and then Councilmember Ezell, and then we'll keep rotating. So, Mr. Owens, if you wouldn't mind, describe your leadership style and how you adapt it to different situations and personalities.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My leadership style, I like to say that I'm more like a coach, and when I say more like a coach, I'm a person that believes in my team and the people I put in charge. I allow them to manage, knowing they are the frontline people as well as the expert in their field. So I allow them to manage their departments. I also look at it as as the city manager, as the person who provides support and resources as the team needs. I give them guidance, and sometimes there's requirements that we have to discipline the team. So I'm the person responsible for that, but I set the vision and make sure everybody has what they need to continue on.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Tyler.
Nice to see you this afternoon, Mr. Owens. How are you doing?
Great, thank you, Vice Mayor.
How do you view your role of the council in dealing with the administration?
I feel like as far as the council and dealing with the administration, I'm the person as far as city manager to receive the ideas, talk with the council, and try to put together plans according to what the council wishes. I'm the one who articulate to the department as well as the citizens the desire of the leadership. So that would be my role as city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Councilmember Cagle.
Well, the mayor kind of touched on the question my first question was, so I'm just going to kind of rephrase it. I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about your history on yourself, not your work history, but your personal history, like your hobbies, fishing, do you like this, sports, stuff like that?
Well, I am not much of a fisherman, and as far as sports, my football coach was the one who introduced me to the band. So I'm not that much of an athlete, but I like to watch sports, and I have some favorite teams. But I am a person who has always been involved with the community. Currently, I'm involved with the Rotary, and I lead several volunteer groups in Fayetteville. In the past, I have always been as president of my college alumni association. I did for many years. I was the scholarship chair for my high school alumni association. I also was board chairman for the Birmingham Parking Authority. So as far as civically, I have always been involved. That's been a big part of me. I like to be involved not only professionally, but I also like to be involved with the community.
In your opinion, what does successful communication between the city manager and the council look like?
I believe it's often. I do not believe communication should be just only when there's a problem or there's an issue that needs to happen. I think communication should happen all the time. I think sometimes in order to work together and make progress, that we sometimes need to have lunch and talk about just life. I think we work better together if we're able to communicate often and talk about things beyond what's on the agenda, but just, how we're doing in our daily lives and what are the things that interest us and what interests our constituents.
In your opinion, what is your greatest strength in management, and what do you think you need to improve on?
Well, my greatest strength in management is communication. I believe I have always been an open communicator. I communicate with my staff members often. I communicate with my elected officials, and I communicate with my citizens. I think that you have to be open. You have to talk to people, and whatever project or whatever problems we're working through, a lot of times there are solutions on papers, but in order to be effective and to get things moving, you have to be able to communicate and talk about, even when times are not going the greatest, you talk about what need to be readjusted. So that's one of my strengths. And the part that I'm working on daily is my technology. Technology is advancing. I'm trying to keep up with the advancement. So that's one of my challenges.
All right, back to me. How would you engage and communicate with residents during a controversial or highly visible issue?
So if we had a controversial issue, what I would do, I would sort of do a open response. When I say open response, there are several ways that you can allow citizens to communicate, whether it's open box, social media, just phone calls, but I would give them a period to be able to give concerns, and also a smaller period to research and then articulate the desired plan. If we need to adjust the plan based on input, I would leave time and room open to hear even further comments. But bottom line is that whatever is the problem, be able to put it out there, allow some time to receive input, and be able to give a proper plan, a clear plan on how we plan to proceed to address.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Owens, earlier when you were discussing your management style, you spoke briefly about letting the department leaders lead their departments. How do you balance providing department leaders with the autonomy to complete their tasks in their own way while still maintaining necessary oversight?
Well, as far as department heads and my practice now, we meet very regular. We have a desired goal, and a lot of the desired goal, I allow them to come back and let me know what they plan to accomplish as department heads. But what I expect is to come back and see whether we're making progress. If we say we're going to be at a certain point by February 1st, to see whether we're meeting those benchmarks, that we will be at those points. So just doing a lot of oversight, making sure, checking in regular to see whether they are really moving as they stated that they would.
Thank you.
Mr. Owens, during your time with other cities, could you explain the reasoning for leaving, or was it conflicts with the council or for betterment to your benefit?
So in my period, in my 3 other cities that I've served, my first city was the city of Birmingham, and I did work there for 20 years. The city of Birmingham gave me an opportunity to join the Alabama City and County Managers Association. At the time, in Birmingham still, they do not operate under council management form of government, but I learned a lot about the practice of a manager, city manager, council form of government. I desired to move into that form of government. So when I was able to get my 20 years, I did an early retirement, and I was able to go into Tuskegee, which was my first position as a city manager, and I stayed there for about a year. COVID hit us at that time, so went back, took care of some family issues, and as soon as I was ready to go back, I had the opportunity to go to Fayetteville, and I have served there for 4 years. And each time, even in Birmingham, I had very good relationships with council that still exists even today.
Further, that question there is, I did some research where you had applied since you've been to Fayetteville to another job and was in the high rankings. And so I was wondering kind of why you were trying to leave Fayetteville last year or the year before, and now you're trying to leave again.
So in Fayetteville, I do have only limited opportunities in Fayetteville. And So one of the reasons I did was to look to expand my horizon. I wanted to grow in the industry, so that is the reason that I have applied for upper mobility positions.
Describe actions you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with segments of the city. What did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals or groups regarding these actions?
Okay. I'm going to, the opportunity that hits me is that when COVID started, and I was in a new city, we had to do some tactics, to protocols in order to keep government operated and keeping people informed. What happened at that time is that I misunderstood some of the history that had been happening in Tuskegee prior to my time there. So I made decisions based on my experiences in Birmingham and some of the other communities in Alabama, what they were doing, but they did not apply to Tuskegee because they had some history that I did not understand at the time, and it caused a lot of confusion. And it was they were advising people to administer the vaccine at the time, but it was a lot of history in Tuskegee, well-known history that I was not familiar with. So I put in some practices that may have worked in Birmingham, but they did not apply in Tuskegee.
Thank you.
What do you think are the biggest challenges for you here in the city of East Ridge?
So I think the bigger challenges, I would need to get to know the community as well as the community would need to know me. Also, just to be able to get to know the elected officials, know their priorities, their values, know the staff as well as the citizens. I think that would be the biggest challenge with me coming into a new community. I do know that we have some things on the books that need to be understood. We have some state legislative issues coming up with the border region, as well as the budget that need to be done, as well as audits. I do know that those things need to be known. Those would take a lot of studying, but I think the basic would be to get to know the people, all the stakeholders, know their value and their expectations. So I think that would be very keen. And I think the textbook stuff you can learn and try to feel all the stakeholders and see how to move forward with them.
Mr. Owens, you kind of touched on it just a second ago, so I'm going to ask you, can you describe your experience developing and managing municipal budget, including how to address financial challenges or uncertainty?
Okay, so one of my strengths is that with the 26 years that I have been involved in city government, I have been involved in the budget process in all of those years. When I was hired in Birmingham, I was hired primarily to deal with the budget and be a part of the budget team, which I did all the 20 years that I was there, 20 years and 20 budgets. In addition, I had to go to Tuskegee and we had to work on the budget. The interesting thing with Tuskegee is that was when COVID hit, so we had to go back in and readjust everything based on all of the businesses had shut down. So that was a little different. And in Fayetteville, as I'm doing now, leading the budget process with my finance director. So that means we're establishing all of the tasks to present the budget in May, as well as all of the communication to board members and department heads. In addition to all of that, I have had some certification in municipal budget over the years that my employer, the city of Birmingham, did fund for me to go. So I had a wide array of experiences in budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Owens, let's stick with budgets. You know, every city manager's favorite topic. Tell us how you would handle a project that was over budget.
I guess when you're looking at projects that were over budget, you have to go to the root and look at what was required in the contract, what resources were given in the budget. So you need to understand what was required, what was the scope, what was the expectation, what was the timeline, and then as well as what resources were there. So you would need to kind of go through there. You may need to go and look or talk with the people who are the contractees, I guess, to see what altercations they can make and the cost, if any. And sometimes you have to just go back to the board or the council and say, was not projected right, we're over budget, we're trying to complete the project, and this is the cost it's going to take to do so. But I think a lot of communication, some negotiation, even on the on who delivering the services, need to be discussed so you can try to bring it in as close to a landing without going over as possible, much more.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Mr. Owens, how would you handle a person up here on this diocese that tries to sway you to his way and that's his way?
Well, sir, I believe in being very ethical. One of the things is that if we are by the books, we got to be by the books. And also, if there's any information to be presented, it has to be presented to the whole elected body. So just being ethical. I mean, in everything you do, you have to be ethical. It has worked for me for 26 years, and I want it to continue working.
What would you hope to accomplish in your first year if chosen as the city manager of East Ridge?
Well, one of the things I would like to do if I'm chosen is, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, I would need to know many of our stakeholders, get to know the elected officials better, hear from the citizens. A lot of citizens know me, as well as the staff, find some places where I can kind of get involved in, but review all of the major documents and tasks that we're having, including your board of retail, get a handle of that, budget items. If we have any strategic planning documents, I would love to dig in those, but just to see those important documents, spend some time with reviewing and looking at all the stakeholders and seeing their input about it. So I think that would be a big accomplishment in the first year.
Thank you.
Describe your approach when dealing with personnel problems.
The first thing I try to do is find out all of the facts. If there's an issue out there, I talk to all of those involved. If there's a supervisor there, sort of bring them to light. Generally, we operate by a strict personnel policy. That's something we look and we update often. Once we, in Fayetteville, when we have a new employee, we go over the personnel policy. That's one of the first tasks we do as an employee is coming in. So we like the employees to understand what is expected of them. And once they sign off, we give them strict, these are things that we do not allow. But when they're violating, they'll go through supervisors, and sometimes it has to come through me. But, you know, we got a strict policy of what is tolerable and what is not, and what are the actions. And that is my rule book, and we go by it all the time.
But you would always keep an open door policy.
My door is open. I do have an open door policy, but I do believe in structure. When I say structure, sometimes personnel have to go through their supervisors, direct chain of command before it gets to me, but I do believe in open door. I do believe in being accessible.
So, kind of talking budget and cost and expense, what are your strategies that you use to control cost while also maintaining service levels for our community?
So one of the things I do to control costs, whenever we're doing a project or anything that is a little bit different, I allow my department heads as well as those that are over the project understand with the budget. We outline the budget. I really, in things that are really expensive, I outline the budget and I send it to all that are involved in it. So we go through our quarterly, we go through all of our expenditures, and this is what we're going through. This is looking or projecting to be over budget. We have a little room right here in case things get out of control, but I like to let everybody know where we are going in the budget. I think it's very important to keep us from going over budget by having regular meetings on that.
Thank you.
So you have mentioned the border region a few times tonight. Can you describe your experience with economic development, and what role did you have in your current city or a previous city as it pertains to economic development?
So we have done a few projects, economic development. In the city of Birmingham, we had an economic and development department and staff. As my role would be more the incentive roles. When we ended up offering a business for retention or the movement of Birmingham, I dealt with the incentives that we would provide to them at that time through the city, and I kept record and reminded those necessary staff of the incentives that were being provided and how we were doing. In Tuskegee, I had a chance to write a couple grants that ended up being beneficial for them as far as economic development. So that was something that Tuskegee is still benefited almost 5 years later from. So that's been a great part to their economy. In Fayetteville, over the last 4 years, we have dealt directly with Main Street as well as the chamber. We have some objectives that the council approved that we work to try to get businesses retention. We were able to work with our industrial development board and recruit a couple major industrial businesses within the city limits. Primarily, they were our big workers in it, but we sort of worked at the city to provide incentives if property that they needed. So that was primarily my role.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Mr. Owens, could you tell us why you applied for the city manager position of the city?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier today, this is an industry that I want to be for the remainder of my professional career. I really enjoy my work in city government, making communities and work and seeing how I can be a project manager. So for the last few years, I really have gotten involved in this, including being a member of several professional organizations that deal with city management. I have just expanded. I'm serving a role with MTest, and that's a state advisory that deals overall with city managers. I just came on that role in 2025. So it's something that I really desire to do. I really feel a passion about serving as a city manager. This position came open. I have had family members, my grandparents, the Owenses grew up where they lived in Chattanooga before passing. So I've always been familiar. When the opportunity came open, I said, great opportunity. I want to put my name in for it.
We're going to go back to the budget. When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
I'm in that process as we speak. One of the things we do, we go back and look at what was accomplished in the last fiscal year, what are the things that still need to go, but we do an annual strategic planning as far as a board in council every year to see the things that are a priority to the board members. And when we decide to do the budget, we look at all of their concerns, we look at those needs that must be concerned. We look at any contract obligations. We have many contracts that go multiple years. So we look and see what need to be fulfilled, and we decide to develop a budget for whatever money we have remaining, if we have any money.
Mr. Owens, what was the most difficult decision you had to make in your career, and what'd you learn from it?
And I'm gonna say that one of the most difficult decisions I made is a personnel one. Uh, early in my tenure, we hired a finance director that was very capable, but was not able. She she had made some mistakes or some misguidance, and a lot were due to health reasons, and it sort of caused some confusion within departments. So probably kept her a little bit longer than we probably should have.
Mr. Owens, I'm going to shift from budgets to grants and audits and things like that. So can you describe your experience with grant process, auditing process, and long-term financial planning?
Okay. Yes. I have had a variety of grant experiences. One of the, I guess, higher grants that I had to deal with is that about 12 years ago, the city of Birmingham received a major Federal Transportation Administration grant, and it was an $80 million grant. In the course of trying to implement the grant, we had just about the whole department turnover. We had a new mayor to come in, and also the transit authority that was a partner. We had a big turnover there. So I found myself the only person out of a 5-member team that was still there. We had to make a decision as far as the city, whether we wanted to keep the grant or not. We chose to keep it, and I had to lead the grant and had to build a new team. So this was maybe a few years in the process, and that required me going to Atlanta mostly monthly to meet with the FTA to get us back on course. In the midst of everything, they almost just took the grant. So we had to really work hard. I had to spend some nights with the current mayor now, just trying to guide him on the needs that we needed to do. Thankfully, that grant was realized, and now if you go through Birmingham, we have a little transit system as a result of that, but I had to lead that grant, not expectedly, but I had to lead that grant for several years in order for that grant to be carried on and completed. In addition, I mentioned that I led 2 grants in Tuskegee that were beneficial for a community that was very distressed. In that, we received a Brownfields grant, which is a economic environmental grant that is still being going on today. And we received basically a main street that helped to do some business development around their square. So we received 2 grants that were very beneficial for the city of Tuskegee. Later coming into Fayetteville, one of the charges I had, they had some grants by TDOT in particular that had not been fulfilled, and they had a timeline to fulfill those grants. So we were able to get in, and we were able to do that. We signed the final papers as of December 2025 to complete those grants. But since that time, we have received maybe about 4 more grants from the state of Tennessee, 2 TDOTs, one for Parks and Recreation, and one is a downtown improvement grant. But those were some grants that been recently awarded to the city of Fayetteville that they are now trying to get moving. One is a TDOT multimodal, which will help us go a long way with some of the sidewalks there.
Great information on grants. How about audits and long-term financing?
So audits, thank you for reminding me.
No problem.
So audits are a big part of my requirements with the city of Fayetteville. We're completing the audit. As a matter of fact, this week we've been successful with getting our audits in by the state requirements by December 31st, and the audits have been very well. So audits are annually done. When I was at the Parking Authority and I was serving as board chair, we got recognized for having a series of great audits. So it's something that's very important. I understand what are the requirements, what need to be done with the audits. So it's something that's part of my professional criteria. And as far as forecasting or planning, as I mentioned that right now we do an annual strategic planning just to know what we need to do per year. I have led a couple of strategic plannings and realizing how to forecast numbers, looking at revenue and projecting revenue, how revenue should come in, and what are the barriers with our revenue streamlines coming up. So all of those are things that I feel very comfortable with.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Owens, can you describe your experience with community revitalization? And can you tell us what role you may have played in that in your current or previous city?
So community revitalization, I have played a couple roles even before city government. I worked in nonprofit, and this was in the mid-90s, as well as for a housing authority. So I spent 4 years before I was introduced to city government, and these were all community development, community revitalization programs. The first one in the nonprofit, there was a program in the mid-90s called the Federal Enterprise Community. And my job was Economic Development Coordinator for that grant. And what we did, we went through and we established programs to renovate housing, encourage some developers in a very distressed area called the West End, which is area a little bit south of Birmingham, which is Princeton Hospital. So we did a series of projects in that grant. I did not stay to see that grant completed, but the grant did produce a few new businesses. They had a what you call a grocery store desert area where they didn't have any places for people to go and purchase food. We were able to get a well-known grocery store at the time, Winn-Dixie, Winn-Dixie is not as popular now, but that was a huge task for that community. So we were able to make a lot of accomplishments. Later, I was chosen to go to the Jefferson County Housing Authority. There I served as community development specialist, and what we did, we were able to acquire a lot of houses that needed rehab work. And what our program was to do was to try to rehab those homes and help residents who were having problems getting into the housing. So we did a pilot program with that. I'm gonna say about 12 homes that we worked on in that time frame. So those were my best experiences in community.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Mr. Owens, could you tell us of a difficult customer service experience that you've recently had to handle, perhaps on an angry or a irate citizen? Be specific and tell us what you did and what was the outcome.
Okay. I'm actually handling one now, and I do get a few a week, so it depends on the individual and the situation, but I'm gonna explain to one that I've been dealing with even today. But we have had a person who is a citizen, a very vocal citizen, and have had a couple food trucks, and she has not been happy, and she's been complaining, sending letters to our board members that we're not being fair and all of that. So my approach is, when I did get the response, I did send her an email note. I'm away from the office today, but if you allow 3 to 4 days, I will be able to research thoroughly and give you a response. So my efforts were to give her a timeline, well, first to respond to her, and then give her a timeline and then tell her what options she had in the meantime while I'm doing. If she needed to communicate that I was checking emails, and I will respond, but it's gonna take me a few days to really be able to address her question and concerns. I don't want to ever go through a period that I do not give people expectations when I will respond to them. Not that I would give them the response that they want to hear. I do believe in being transparent, but I will respond to you in an appropriate amount of time.
Thank you.
How would you define your core management philosophy, and how do you adapt this approach when collaborating with the diverse groups of the department heads, the staff, and the city council?
I think shared vision and communication. Whatever I'm gonna tell to the elected officials, I think that message needs to be the same when I talk to the department heads, the staff, and the citizens. I believe in writing my tests down before I go with either the groups, so I would know what it's gonna be able to take the questions and come back and allow everybody to understand what questions are being asked. But just being able to share a common vision, common communication across the board everywhere.
Thank you.
No more questions.
No more? How would you assess and prioritize infrastructure, public safety, and service delivery needs?
One of the things currently, as far as the infrastructure, one of the things we had in Fayetteville in particular, we had some serious infrastructure need that had been sort of delayed or put off for some time, and they have gotten to a point that we could not put them out any further. Of course, we still are having problems with money, so we had to really work with our utility group, put some priorities on where those infrastructure attentions needed to be, whether there were labor or dollars or just trying to apply for grants. We do have a standing meeting to check off the list. I think we have 14 issues on that list that we're trying to check off. So we look at that list every month. I mean, it's a breakfast meeting, and we go through. If there's something we're not able to check off, we like to go and see why the reasons we're not checking out, so we can report not only to my council board, but also to the utility board why we're not being able to check these things out and how much more effort is going to need to be put in. As far as public safety, one of the biggest things we're looking at now is trying to make sure we have all of the equipments and technology needs in order to address our public safety issues there. We were fortunate to get a chief who wanted to return back to Fayetteville over the last, I guess, 17 months he's been there. So we look at what his needs have been very clear. They made their own strategic planning that we try to keep in front of us when we talk to the council about funding needs. So we try to just keep that as a part of our discussion, not only with the chief, but also with the people making the decisions about our funding needs. And I'm sorry, the last one, you had a third.
Yeah, it was service delivery.
Service delivery. With those things that are low-lying fruit that we can do it immediately, we try to get those in a timely basis. I know that East Ridge, they have they have weekly department meetings. We try to, ours are really every 2 weeks, but we try to look at those things. We put on the table those things are low-lying fruits that we can deliver immediately, and we go ahead and deliver those as soon as we can. Some things take a little more time, but we also let it be known if it's going to take us a little more time, and try to realize what that time expectations look like, so we can also tell the public and the board and aldermen how we're going to address.
No further questions from me, Mayor.
Well, you know, I like to talk. If we called, I have maybe two, maybe one. If we called your last council, what would they say is your greatest strength and what is your biggest area for growth?
So I would say, I mean, in most of my evaluations, one of the things they do give me a lot of credit is my abilities to work with people. I have a good temperament. I work very well with my council. I work very well with my staff, and citizens seem to appreciate me. And I think that goes across the board, whether it was Birmingham, Tuskegee, or Fayetteville. So I think that's one of the biggest compliments I would receive from them. As far as something they would like for me to improve, we're all very weary about our advancements in technology. I mean, it's something we hopefully we hire somebody who is pretty much averse to technology, and we're hoping to make some improvements, but we're trying to keep up with our counterparts with technology, and we're all just trying to work hard to get there.
Awesome. So I'll do one last question. Why should we select you as our next city manager?
Well, I saw a lot of great things here in Fayetteville today, and a lot of great things that I would like to carry on. I have to give a lot of credit. One of the things I really I saw how well respected your current manager is, Mr. Miller, and how he works with the public as well as how he works with the elected officials, and the staff really respected him. So I think he carried a lot of weight in getting people on the same side and moving towards. I think I cannot fill Mr. Miller's shoes, but I think I can be able to continue working with everybody on that path, looking into some of those items that are very important to this city, and just trying to move forward with the legacy he has already established. I feel like that I do have enough insight and some connections in order to keep things moving as he has already put into place.
Thank you, sir. Any other last comments? Mr. Owens?
No, I'm very honored to be here and get a chance to talk and express myself. And I do want to thank you all and thank everybody for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
We will take a brief recess as Mr. Owens leaves, and then we'll bring in Mr. Powers, and then we'll reconvene.
It's hot.
He's on like a board.
Robert Jones. Yeah, yeah. Hey, if you run, you going back here?
Where would you like to go?
No, I was gonna say if you go by the kitchen, I need water.
You need
But
water?
don't worry about it.
There's your water.
Thank you,
Let's go and get water.
Mrs. Deidre.
You need water?
I'm thirsty, bud. It's warm in here. It's the tie.
He obviously is too young.
Sir, appreciate that.
He's not on blood thinners.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Okay.
Not on blood thinners.
No.
These
That's
two over
true.
here are cold. I said he's not on blood thinners.
So you're diabetic.
No, they
Just
just
type
think
2
I am.
diabetes
I don't
medicine.
take
You're
nothing for it.
pre-diabetic? Are you? Well,
Yeah.
I was
3 of
pre-diabetic for 23 years. Now I'm diabetic.
Oh, that's what. No,
You're not.
one. Metformin,
Oh, are you?
and then yeah,
I'm on
and then I got 3 blood pressure. One drives me out.
I'm hoping to get off of it. It's the weight. I'm gonna tell you, get the weight off of you.
I was gonna MIA, but I think I can make it.
Well, the bathroom's full.
Well, yeah, there's only one back there, so let's wait on you.
But he'll be there when.
Only 5, and then you didn't come through for me.
I wasn't gonna do but 3. I gave you a break and did
Oh,
4.
I thought you was wanting to go more.
No, he
Oh,
was
no.
wanting to go. Oh, I knew he was wanting to go
I
less.
had an abundant over in the other building.
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
Didn't get to all of them because we didn't have enough time.
I ran out of time. But 'cause she was on the spot. You got 4 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
I could've
Michelle
brought-
knocking on the door.
I could probably went an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like more time would have been good.
When you fly back out, are you here till indefinitely or
No, till tomorrow I'm flying back.
fly back tomorrow? Fly into LA, is that what you said?
No, actually, you can get a flight.
Oh.
It's an hour away.
Is that all?
Yeah.
By airplane, an hour?
No, hour driving from Tulare to Fresno.
Oh, okay.
Now, is that because of traffic, or would it be closer if there wasn't so much traffic?
4 hours from my house with no road construction because something's always getting worked on in LA.
You all right?
Something's always getting worked on here, right out there, isn't it, Jeff?
You went out?
Something's always getting worked on here, right out there.
It can be 6 hours from my house. And that happens way too regularly, so if I can get out of Fresno, I fly out of Fresno.
All right, we're going to return to session and welcome, Mr. Powers. Appreciate your interest in the city of East Ridge. Glad you're here. I would like to take a few minutes and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name is Michael Powers.
I currently reside in Tulare, California. I have spent the last 25 years of my life managing small cities and a borough in Alaska. My background is I have a bachelor's degree in public administration. During college, I worked for 2 small cities, one in the Public Works Department as a maintenance technician, doing originally dragging sprinklers because the city was so poor they couldn't afford enough sprinklers to keep their parks watered. And then later I worked throughout the Public Works Department operating equipment, working in water and wastewater, paving streets, repairing streets, and working on various park projects. A couple of years later, I took an internship with the city of Reedley. I had the pleasure of working in the city manager's office for a whole whopping 2 months of my 1,000-hour minimum internship when the city council let him go. Fortunately, the chief of police had need of an intern to do different things, and so I worked on a variety of projects within the police department, including aviation issues and security issues related to crop dusters. Wrote several grants, which was my first grant writing experience, and then administered those grants. I worked for the County of Fresno for a total of 7 years, 2 years doing building permits, zoning, and code enforcement, and then the last 5 managing 70 special districts serving approximately 10,000 residents scattered all over Fresno County, and Fresno County is the 3rd largest county in California. It was a great opportunity to learn a diverse amount about management and different subject matters such as water, wastewater, streets and roads, and highway lighting districts. And it seemed to be the perfect fit to move into city management. After 70 plus applications and resumes, I obtained my first city manager job in Northern California in a small rural community known primarily for tourism. The city of Dunsmuir is located on the upper Sacramento River, which Southern Pacific Railroad decided to wipe out the river in 1989 by dumping roughly 30,000 gallons of metam sodium into the river and killed every living thing from Dunsmuir down to Shasta Reservoir. I came on board just as the river reopened and found a town that was in dire economic straits due to the lack of tourism for the preceding 7 years. Fortunately, we were able to make some great improvements there, worked with the residents and the business community, and spent 5 enjoyable years there resolving some of the problems and doing a significant amount of work in the commercial community. I left there. I went to briefly for 2 years, Ferndale, California, a small agricultural community on the upper Eel or lower Eel River. After 2 years there, I was presented an opportunity to work as the city manager in King City, California. It's in the Salinas Valley, south of Salinas. I was there for 9 years. We dealt with a number of financial problems. We were just getting our feet under us when the 2009 housing collapse hit. And the Salinas Valley was already notoriously known as writing as stated income loans. In King City, we saw property assessments drop by 50% due to the housing collapse. As anyone who's worked on a government budget that relies on property tax knows, that's a bad thing for your books. And so we went from climbing out of a hole to right back into tough financial conditions. Fortunately, the economy rebounded relatively quickly in that area, and I spent the next 5 years of that 9-year term helping recover our economy and working on a variety of projects for the betterment of the city. I left after King City. I went to Kodiak Island. I was the borough manager, which in lower 48 speak, as they would say, is a county. Counties in Alaska are a little different than counties down here in that you don't have the social service component that you're responsible for, but they add fun other things like all landfill duties, school duties to the mix. Kodiak Island Borough has 100 miles of road spread over a whole whopping 6,800 square miles. 6 of the villages that we provided schools to had only access by airplane or boat, and logistics became my middle name there. It was quite an adventure trying to get anything onto and off of the island, and certainly getting out to the villages to repair school buildings, bring in new air conditioning units was quite an interesting and challenging feat. After that, I took a short break, worked for the county of Tulare doing land use planning. They were extremely shorthanded, and so I jumped in and filled a role there for 6 months, and then spent the next 3 years as a project manager for the city of Tulare, constructing numerous capital projects, including wells. And that pretty much brings us up to date of where I am today.
Thanks, sir. So I will start the questions and we'll go through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Cagle, Councilmember Witt, and the Councilmember Ezel, and until we get through our questions. So I'll start it off and I'll ask, describe your leadership style and how you adapt it to different situations and personalities.
So my leadership style is, I realize it is my role to carry out the will of the city council and to oversee the employees in making sure that the policies, directions, and actions of the council are carried out. Overseeing staff is a major part of that function. It's my job to, and my belief, that I help them try to perform at the highest level possible and to help them improve where improvement is needed. As the Chief Executive Officer for the city, it's my duty to keep the council well informed of everything going on and to be equally informed. That is, everyone gets all the council gets the same information at the same time, or as close as the same time as can be humanly done without violating Open Meeting Act and public disclosure laws, and texts in the middle of the night if it comes to that, and it always seems to inevitably come to that. I firmly believe in management by walking about. That is, the manager needs to see the operations up close and personal, and to be well aware and well known by staff so that they can be properly evaluated and the performance of departments evaluated and changed as needed.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Powers, how do you view the role of the council in dealing with the administration?
So the council manager form of government puts a burden on both the council and the manager to communicate effectively. And so both parties have to be open and transparent about their needs, desires, intentions, so that it's very clear where the city is going to go. Now, decisions are made here, and that's the appropriate venue. They need to be made in the public eye with public comment, but that the law doesn't prohibit the council members from talking to the city manager and vice versa on a regular basis to better understand what the intents are of the various members, so that agenda items can be prepared for consideration to be able to move the city forward. on any given topic that the council sees fit.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Powers, could you tell us a little bit of the history of yourself? And I don't mean your work history, kind of like a personal history, your hobbies, things you do to relax.
Sure. So I feel that on a professional level, I'm very much a generalist. I have a lot of I'll try that again. I have a lot of subject matter expertise in various areas of cities. I've worked quite deeply on risk management, for example, HR issues, water and wastewater issues, which those skills aren't going to be needed here necessarily. But I do have a very wide and knowledge base on what's needed in cities. As far as personally, I'll gladly share that I've been married for 38 years to the same woman. We have 2 biological children, 2 foster children who we did not adopt because they chose not to be adopted, but they still ask for money, so I consider them mine, ours. And in addition to those, we fostered 11 other children. As far as involvement in community, over the years we have been Girl Scout assistant troop leaders. I have coached softball and soccer. I'm better at softball coaching than soccer, I freely admit, just more my nature on that one. And I've worked with various youth groups over the years in the different communities we've lived in. For fun and recreation, we like to camp, we like the outdoors. I may not look it, but I'm pretty serious about getting out and putting miles on down a trail with a backpack and kid and wife in tow. But we also enjoy the luxury of our travel trailers, so I'm not adverse to roughing it as you were in a trailer. For other fun, I like to fish, I like to hunt, I like to shoot. And probably more than shooting, I actually enjoy teaching new shooters.
You've already touched on this, but it's a question that I'm supposed to ask, so I'm going to ask it. In your opinion, what does successful communication between the city manager and the council look like?
Successful communication looks like controversy comes, but there are no surprises as part of it. And so equal communication, timely communication to the council is part and parcel of the city manager's job. Every council wants different volumes and different types of information. If I'm chosen as the city manager, we'll have to work that out of what the council would like to see. In some jurisdictions, I would do a monthly report of all the stats and statistics and goings on, but then provide a weekly update on important topics, controversial topics, the red letter topics, if you will, depending on the community and what their desires were. In King City, we did a lot of construction. And so weekly construction updates were part and parcel for several years of the communications that went out. And I tailored those so that they went to the council first, and then we press released them, started using social media to try to keep the public informed of what was going on with the projects we had underway.
Thank you.
Mr. Powers, what is your greatest strength in management, and what do you think you need to improve on?
So I would say my greatest strength is I can handle the diverse information that comes through into a municipality quite easily. Cities cover a lot of topics with a lot of different nuances to it, and being able to absorb and make sense of that information and use it to our advantage is definitely one of the strengths that I have. The one of the weaknesses that I recognize and know, and I'm not going to give you the typical my weakness is my strength kind of response is I really have a hard time with people who always see the glass half empty and don't really want to accept an answer unless it's doom and gloom. If you got a problem and you come to me, I'll try to help you solve your problem. But if you come to me 10 times with the same problem after I've given you ways to solve your problem, I freely admit I get frustrated with that.
So how would you engage and communicate with residents during, on a regular basis, and especially during a conversational or a highly visible issue? Controversial or highly visible issue.
So in the world of social media, there's an incredible opportunity to get the word out, and it requires time and effort, of course, but getting the facts out and letting people at least have the knowledge of what's going on is one of the ways to somewhat calm down controversy, because in the internet age, one sentence suddenly turns into a paragraph of misinformation quite quickly. And so getting information out to the public is vital on all topics, but especially those that are controversial. I am a firm believer that cities ought to do regular press releases on topics that are of importance, as well as maintaining social media presence, and making sure that the public at least has access to the information. What the public does with it, obviously we can't force feed information to people, but we do have a duty to get information out to the public.
Thank you.
Mr. Powers, how do you balance providing department leaders with the autonomy to complete tasks in their own way while still maintaining necessary oversight?
So letting your good department heads and staff run and do the jobs that they've been hired for while keeping tabs on them is part of the art of management. There's a science of management, but there's an art of management. And so part of it is being out and about, management by walking about so you can see results that are occurring within departments, regular evaluations and evaluation process, regular weekly or every other week check-ins with department heads to track progress on different issues they're working on is one of the things I like to employ. It makes it easier to have communications flowing if you do it regularly. And so having those short check-ins on a regular basis, especially on topics that may be controversial, gives the manager a chance to stay on top of what's going on.
Yes, sir. During your time with the other cities that you've been worked in, could you explain the reason for leaving? Was it for advancement and benefits, or was it for difference with the council?
So in Dunsmuir, I left by mutual agreement after a 3-member change in the city council. In Ferndale, I left them because they offered me a pay raise, and then the local newspaper editor hated the idea. Her husband sat on the council, and he convinced 2 colleagues to withdraw the pay raise that they had already approved. In King City, we left under mutual agreement after 9 years. For those that are the internet sleuths of the world, we went through a very ugly police corruption issue in King City. And I felt that, and the council did too, that as part of getting that resolved and put to bed, I should leave and a new manager come in. So for 2 years, I worked knowing that I was going to be leaving. Once we got a new chief of police on board and got him settled or her settled in. In Kodiak, Alaska, the entire 7-member assembly changed in the 5 years that I was there. A number of the new members thought that the assembly, not the manager, should pick staff. And even though that's not what the ordinance says for the borough there, and since they had enough votes to terminate my employment, they did.
Describe actions you have initiated and taken that were unpopular with segments of the city. What did you do to come to an understanding with these individuals or groups regarding these actions?
There's been a couple of things that that were fun. In King City, we had a problem with a number of unlicensed and mobile businesses operating throughout the community. Some were selling food, some were selling services. They did not have business licenses. Some were operating without contractors' licenses. There were no health department inspections of the food prep that they were using for the finished food that we were selling. And we, with the council's approval, launched a crackdown on that to convince people either get legal or don't do this. And I will freely admit I had eaten some really good tamales from one of our unlicensed vendors that my wife bought from. And I thought she was a wonderful woman and a great tamale maker, but she was in violation of the law. And we had numerous examples like that. And so some of the businesses we worked with, we were working towards establishing a food prep, commercial grade food prep area to try to help those that were doing food. For those that were violating contractor licensing laws, we asked nice, we asked not so nice, and then finally we referred those that kept violating the law to the contractor licensing board for action. We had several tax preparers in town who were purporting that they were licensed tax preparers but were not, and those were referred to the state of California.
All right, Mr. Powers, what do you think is the biggest challenges that you'll face here in East Ridge?
So all new managers face that initial challenge of getting to know people, trying to get up to speed. That'll certainly be one of them. Since I come from California, I'll just put it out there that I am not from that part of California. I grew up in rural California. I am not part of the nut and twig eater clan for those who have a mental image of California and Yule Gibbons and eating his nuts and twigs. But that's certainly part of it. My wife and I and family have always lived in smaller communities. We value the relationships that come out of smaller communities and the values and sense of community. And so I think we will fit in here once everyone forgets we're from California. The other challenge is, hey, you got to be blunt about it. You know, it's just, it is what it is. I think some of the other challenges are going to be the push towards the Border Act deadlines coming up in roughly 18 months. Regardless of whether there's an extension or not, there's definitely going to be a lot of workload there. There's a master plan study underway for drainage. That certainly is going to require time and effort by the manager and city staff to make sure that's successfully completed and presented to the council. And then, of course, the scary part of the numbers that are going to come out of that for what we need to spend to improve drainage is going to be challenging. And getting to know staff and people is always a challenge in a community. You know, in my experience, there are not enough hours in the day the first 6 months you're here to do everything you would like to do. And my wife will attest to that. She always gets mad at me when I change jobs.
Mr. Powers, can you see you're talking about cost and all these other projects? Can you describe your experience developing and managing a municipal budget, including how you address financial challenges and uncertainty?
Certainly. So my first job that was managerial level was managing special districts in Fresno County. I had 70 districts I was responsible for, with 70 separate budgets plus a master budget over them that paid for keeping the lights on in office space and all of that fun. I did that for 5 years. So I prepared 350 budgets during that time, as well as numerous other budgets for districts that were proposed during that time period. I was also responsible for monitoring all of those budgets and all of the purchasing associated with those budgets. In each of the cities and the borough of Kodiak, I have overseen the budget process. Every city runs on money. It's just a fact of life. And early in my career, I learned and was counseled, always pay attention to the money. So I always pay attention to the money. It's a necessity. We can't get good things done. We can't provide quality services if we don't manage our funds well. And so from start to finish on budget process, I am involved. In California, there's a proposition called Prop 218 that requires significant study for rates. I mastered that process and even taught that process to other jurisdictions. So I'm very familiar with rate setting and reasonableness test of rate setting. And then I have worked on numerous infrastructure plans over the years and figured out how to fund them, and had to learn to forecast the uncertainty part of budgets. California is a roller coaster, literally, for the state of California's finances. And one year they're throwing money at you, and the next year they're charging you for running fingerprints through the system they operate and won't let you operate your own. So it's definitely been part and parcel of my job to have to forecast, and I've learned to do that pretty effectively. I've been reading up and will continue to learn about Tennessee if I'm selected, and I will over time learn to forecast effectively here.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Powers, could you tell us how you handle a project that's over budget?
So that seems to be a common question today. Not sure why, but so I served both as a city manager. I had to do a lot of project management, and then for 3 years I did full-time project management. Projects there's several components to keep a project on track, and how to deal with them when they go off track and over budget. First of all, prevention's worth a pound of cure. So plans need to be well designed, well reviewed, specifications, bid packages all have to be perfect when they go out. That eliminates one potential set of cost overruns. The second part is contractors coming and saying, we want to spend more because X, Y, Z. The answer generally should be no, or occasionally hell no, but no is usually sufficient. They'll then want to argue about it and fight about it. You have to be steadfast in saying no. They prepared a bid based on their expertise in construction. They need to be able to live with it and stick with it. Politics inevitably comes into play. Councils have to be willing to do the same thing. Even though they're your favorite contractor who's built a ton of stuff in your community, they've got to live within the bid they've provided, and we've got to live within the revenue that we've set aside for it. So saying no is part of that equation, and it's not popular, and everyone catches flack for it, but saying no is hugely important. Sometimes the truly unexpected does happen. You'll be excavating something that's more than 6 or 8 feet deep, and you find terrible, awful, horrible things. That's why you budget contingencies for projects. You'll get digging, and all of a sudden you'll find somebody decided to dump 10 Model A pickups here, or we don't know what this soil is, but it ain't normal soil, or oh, we ran into a clay patch when there's no other clay patch that anyone's found in 20 square miles. That happens. But that's why you have contingencies built into your budgets for those types of headaches, because those things do come along.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. How would you handle a person on this diocese that comes to you and tries to dictate the daily operations into, I'm gonna use myself as I want you to do it, or else?
Sadly, I have far too much experience with that, and the word no comes up again. The council sets the policy and the direction. The manager carries it out. And I would gently and firmly remind a council member of that. And if it persisted, I'd have a conversation with the city attorney about what the options are, and then a conversation with the mayor about potentially agendizing something if we couldn't get it resolved. But most council members, in my experience, except for those that just don't want to listen to reason and follow law, realize, okay, I'm overstepping, let's work this out, or try to work this out a different way. I will tell you that in my goings and comings of getting out and seeing operations, I've had council members that are interested in how something operates. I drag them with me. I had a councilwoman who had never seen a fire department really in action other than standing across the street. We put her on an engine for half a dozen calls. It was great. She had a whole different appreciation when it was done. She decided she never wanted to be a volunteer firefighter, but she was sure glad that we had a good volunteer fire department. So, you know, if you're interested, tell me. I'll make sure you get to see the operations. You want to know how fun and tough a cop's job is? We'll set you up on a ride-along. You want to see how interesting it is to get some of these big refuse trucks down into some of these smaller neighborhoods? We'll make sure you get to go experience that. And if you're really a good driver, we may even let you get in the driver's seat of doing it. But if you want to know, we'll show you, we'll teach you. But everyone has to remember, the council sets the policy and staff carries it out.
Here again, you've touched on this, but I'm going to ask the question. What would you hope to accomplish in your first year if chosen as the city manager of Eastridge?
So, besides the initial getting settled in and starting to learn all the who's who in the zoo stuff, I know we have a effort underway to start looking at storm drainage. I would like to see that move through as quickly as possible. I know it's a hot topic here, but everywhere across the country, people are realizing we got to do more about storm drains and storm drainage and some of those headaches. Pushing through as many projects before the deadline on the Border Act would be a high priority for me. Looking at the residential mix and some of the opportunities and challenges that exist for existing housing stock is something I would like to get underway during that first year. There are some, I will just say, and I forget which one of you I was talking about with it, but there are some great older homes in this community and some beautiful mid-century moderns that, quite frankly, I'm afraid my wife will see and want if we move here. But there's some other stock that's ready for love and upgrades, and we can't forget that as a valuable component of our housing stock. And so I think attention needs to be paid to it.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Powers, can you describe your approach when dealing with personnel problems?
Certainly. Personnel is one of the fun parts of the job. It's always challenging. I'm a firm believer that we have to start with the employee, see what is happening. I had an employee who was good, relatively good employee. All of a sudden started running late every morning. A simple conversation with her about the problem revealed that her child care provider had quit. She didn't have transportation to get her kid to school, and she was embarrassed that she was having all these problems. She should have gone to her supervisor and said, "Can I simply change my work schedule for a while?" She didn't. It rose to my level. We've got it worked out. But you got to start with the employee. Long before any of the employees here, and myself, all of you included, you were someone's child, you're someone's brother, sister, sibling, you name it, you're a human being, and all the employees are. Well, maybe I met one that might not be human, but we'll see. We got to treat all the employees like people and realize people have flaws. And so you start there. What's going on with this person? Is it work-related, truly work-related? Is it not work-related? The non-work-related ones are usually easier to help them with. If it's work-related, then you document exactly what's going on. You build a case, so to speak, of what they're doing, what needs to be done, how we can help them improve, the plan of attack for improvement, and do they carry out and do they get better? That's the basic steps of trying to deal with work-related problems that I've been taught and used successfully in other jurisdictions.
All right, we've talked about budgets, so let's kind of shift to, we all love to get grants. So can you describe your experience on grants, then also about auditing, 'cause that's always comes every year, and then some long-term financial planning experience?
So as far as grants go, I have written, received, executed, and closed out numerous grants at both the state and federal level. At the federal level, grants included FAA grants, EPA grants, state highway grants, federal highway grants. At the local level, pass-through money of community development grants, numerous Caltrans, California Department of Transportation, sorry, bad acronym this far east, grants, recreational grants, the various COP grants that come through, aid to firefighter grants, all of those I have been involved in, either authoring, implementing, or closing out. What was the second part? Auditing?
Auditing and then long-term financing,
So
planning.
cities run on money. Having a 5-year plan for both your finances and capital improvements is a mainstay of many cities. It gives you a roadmap and gives you a comparative basis moving forward and looking back of how you're doing. I know that the city employs independent auditors to review their finances, as they should. As part of that process, there's always the management letter component and the discussions with the auditors. I went back to the 23-24 audit, didn't see any issues, significant findings in it, which leads me to believe that the city is, for a small city, is minding its P's and Q's. Separation of powers in small cities is always a headache with auditors, and that's one that always seems to pop up, at least in my experience. And then the last part of that, I'm sorry, Mayor. It's
I think you
been a
covered
long
it.
day
It
of
was,
questions.
yeah, I know it has been. We talked about grants, audits, and long-term financial planning.
So hopefully I covered
Yes, sir.
all of that for you.
Mr. Powers, describe your experience in economic development and what role you may have played in your current or previous city management jobs.
So economic development is one of those fun but frustrating parts of the job. Fun because when you can make something happen, it's great. Frustrating is a developer's wife likes a different city and a different place to build something, and therefore they go there. That's the frustrating part. And that's a real life example of a very large business that went somewhere else. Even though we offered them better incentives, the land that was available was better priced, the wife wanted to be somewhere else. So that's the frustrating part. But in every city I've been involved in it. In Dunsmuir, because of the river closure and the poor use of some of the settlement funds, the city was struggling. They hadn't recruited any new restaurants, and in a tourism town, you got to have a diversity of food. So I spent a considerable amount of time working with our commercial business owners, as well as property owners, to get spaces ready, to work with them, and to reach out and recruit some young and upcoming restauranteurs who were looking for space, and successfully landed 2 very well-received restaurants in Dunsmuir. We did a number of facade renovations on commercial buildings in conjunction or in cooperation with building owners that took their vacant buildings and ended up getting them tenants because of the improved facades. In another example, we had a small fly rod company that was he was building fly rods out of his garage. He was tired of living in the heat. We found him very cheap and inexpensive space in Dunsmuir. He moved up. He ended up employing 3 different people and went from building a couple of fly rods a week to building a couple of dozen a week, and look to continue to expand. In King City, we had a 9-acre parcel, 7 acres of which was building, agricultural property that primarily served as cold storage and food processing. Literally go belly up overnight, no warning, no warn notices under federal law, none of that. They literally just closed the doors and told the employees, see you later. We lost 1,000 jobs, literally overnight. as soon as I got word, I started calling all of the major ag producers and farmers I knew, said, look, this is what's happened. Obviously, you guys got problems because of this, because all of the big process something through there at some time of year. A couple of them immediately jumped on going to field pack only. Picked up almost 500 of the employees between two different farmers. That provided us some relief on the financial side of having 1,000 people out of work. We worked with a couple of our sister cities to get another couple of hundred people relocated into jobs there. They stayed in our city to live, but we're now working 10 miles and 15 miles north of us. And then I worked with a couple of the big farmers who had facilities scattered everywhere for them to obtain the land out of bankruptcy and on pennies on the dollar and consolidate all of their operations within our city limits, which ended up being a big boon because they did have taxable sales that were now all occurring in my city limits instead of out in the county where the county didn't care about them one iota. In Kodiak, we worked with economic development was not integral part of our mission, but we did work with the city providing land and buildings for a couple of opportunities that they had come across. And then we and the city partnered with helping out a marine fabrication company that did high-end welding for stainless and on ships. You know, there's welding and then there's, can you repair a 150-foot steel-hulled ship welding? And so they didn't have some of the capacity they needed in terms of equipment and materials handling. And so we partnered with the city and they brought money to the table as well. The business did to get them some of the equipment and materials they needed to be able to better serve the fishing fleet.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
All right, sir. Tell us why you have applied for the city manager job of the city of East Ridge.
So early in my career, my wife and I talked about the fact that city managers are everywhere in the United States and that this isn't a good opportunity to live in different parts of the world. And since I got chuckles about the California comment, staying in California was easy. Getting out of California has been kind of hard. It's not for lack of trying, I assure you. But East Ridge, we have friends in the area. They had positive things to say about the community. My research, which I've been doing for a couple of weeks now, is all very positive. The Chattanooga area economically is doing well and has very positive signs that that's going to continue. The city is doing well, as witnessed by both the commercial and sales tax growth, but also the sleeping tax or transient tax on motels is clearly showing that people are coming here for a reason. And so those show it as a up-and-coming and doing well community. It's small enough that you can know your neighbors and people across town, which appeals to our sense of liking to be in a community where people know you. And it seemed like a very good opportunity. I will freely admit I had never been here before coming on this interview, but my wife and I spent a couple of weeks in Tennessee a couple of years ago, and we quickly recognized that Tennessee's a very special place, and this should be someplace we consider looking for employment. We went from, well, we started in Nashville, we went to Memphis, and then wandered through Dollywood and wandered back and enjoyed every community we visited and spent time in.
We're gonna go back to a budget question.
Sure.
When preparing a budget, how do you prioritize which services and programs will be funded?
So ideally, you never have to make that decision, but reality is that sometimes you do have to make those decisions. Life and safety issues are always first and foremost in most people's minds. So fire, police, EMS tend to be the highest priorities. But quality of life issues such as parks and recreation programs and adequate garbage service and maintaining streets, maintaining the limited amount of sidewalks we have here, brush removal, nice visible signs for traffic control are all priorities as well. But ultimately, life and safety issues definitely went out because of the grave consequences that can occur if they're not adequately funded. But ideally, we don't face those circumstances, and if we have to do cutting, we try to cut with the least significant impact on providing all of the services that we provide.
Mr. Powers, what was the most difficult decision you had to make in your career, and what did you learn from it?
So I'm going to tread slightly carefully, only in that it involves a real human being who's still on this face of the planet. And so I will simply say that in one of the cities I worked in their ordinance, the city manager had to get permission from the city council to fire the chief of police. I realized that the chief had a significant problem. I tried to help him deal with the problem, and it was unsuccessful, so I went to the council to request permission to terminate the chief. I was denied on a 3-2 vote, and I spent the next several days agonizing over whether I should quit and leave it to someone else to deal with the problem, or if I should give it another try, or what to do. Ultimately, I decided that I wasn't a quitter, and I would try to work through it. I will say today that chief of police ultimately got help for his problem a couple of years after he left the department. But it was very hard to decide whether I should walk away or stick it out and try to manage it and work through it. It was agonizing.
How would you address and prioritize infrastructure, public safety, and service? Similar to what Councilman Witt said, but how would you assess it and prioritize those needs?
Can I make all of them one, and one? So,
If you have enough money.
yeah. So services, including public safety, are definitely the first priority. Fires happen every day. Medical emergencies happen every day. Crime happens way too frequently. So those have to be dealt with, without a doubt. But other services, being able to get a building permit, being able to use the library, having trash picked up, those are all services people want as well. And so the answer ultimately is being fiscally conservative so you don't get stuck in the situation of having to pick and choose which ones are we going to have to cut back on. And so, as I said before, cities run on money. Healthy reserves are part of that money that can't just be an afterthought. it needs to be a forethought of the whole budget process. We need to have a goal. We need to have a goal that is realistic and stick to it so that we don't, if we do run into a hiccup, okay, we're going to run into hiccups. But hiccups don't be, you can't let those hiccups become a way of life where you're now scrambling every time there's a little bit of a money shortage of what to do. You have to keep healthy reserves and budget for them if you're going to be a well-run city.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Powers, you've kind of touched on this several times in your questions tonight, but could you describe your experience with community revitalization, and can you tell us what your role was in that revitalization?
Certainly. So, two different aspects. The formal aspect of revitalization in communities, at least in California, took place in under redevelopment law, which most cities created redevelopment agencies, used tax increment funding to restore buildings, neighborhoods. That was the dollars and cents part of it. The other part of revitalization is setting a mindset of progress and improvement in the city. And that comes from the council having vision to make the community better on a regular basis. The goal being, if your community is in bad shape, we're in bad shape, but we're going to make it better. Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. We need the citizens' help to do it. In Dunsmuir, for example, volunteerism after the spill and the town financially tanked completely dropped off. There were still sports programs going on, but they couldn't get coaches. I challenged every pastor to go coach a sport. I had one pastor who was something like 80 years old, and he said, I can't get out there and throw a ball. You don't have to throw a ball. Just be a coach. Tell them how to do it. And I went out and coached. I rounded up everyone I could to come out and help coach. My wife and I jumped into Girl Scouts because they needed people. That was part of it. But there were other parts where it wasn't in my interest, wasn't my area of knowledge, where other people stepped up and started teaching some of the kids to fly fish, because it was a great recreational opportunity, bragging rights, you name it. You teach a kid a skill, their self-esteem goes up. So there was some of that. There was a whole effort made to beautify houses that the city had nothing to do with other than occasionally providing soil. But a bunch of volunteers went out there and said, you're right, this is a pretty town, we've let it go, let's do our part. So that part of revitalization is every bit as important as restoring buildings and getting businesses in them. It's the mindset of the community that we're going to take pride in where we live and put some time and effort into it. As part of my tour Sunday, I went to the new animal facility. Beautiful facility. Learned that there's over half a dozen volunteers that give their time to help out with the animals. That's a valuable thing to this community. Whether you like or hate animals doesn't matter. Animals exist in the community. We've got strays, we've got animals turned in. They need to be cared for, taken care of. Volunteers helping out reduces the cost to everyone because gives us additional manpower. I know people are working hard on soccer programs and coaching, and every sport in this town relies on volunteers. Other groups, Seropolis and Rotaries, all rely on people volunteering and giving back to their community. That should be encouraged in every community, whether the community is doing well or needs a lift and needs a kick.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Tell us a difficult customer service experience you recently had to handle, perhaps on an angry or irate citizen. Be specific and tell us what you did and what was the outcome.
So I'll give you the PG version of one I handled in Tulare County. How's that? While I was serving as basically a short-term planner for the county, the planner who normally handled the front counter with the and building inspections was having health problems. And I got real tired of people coming in being gruff and mean to the young ladies up there whose job did not involve getting yelled at, or shouldn't involve getting yelled at. So this gamey old codger came in, and I can't even repeat what he said, but it was a number of choice words and a couple of words I didn't even know. I had to look up in a slang dictionary. So he was pretty bent about a building permit issue. So I went up there and I very quietly dropped my voice and I said, "Sir, I'm the only one who gets to yell at these young ladies. What did the county do to screw you that you're so upset?" And he looked at me and his face was red and he goes, "Well, they did blah, 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 blah." But he quit yelling right away and he started talking to me. And it took me an hour and a half to figure it all out. I had to go look at his plans, look at his permits. All the inspectors were in the field, of course, and not available. None of them were answering their cells or their radios, of course. But I finally weeded through all the problems he was having, the land use problems he was having, figured out what the course of action was. Half of it was the county, to be honest. We had screwed the pooch on a couple of things on his permit process, and it was our fault. He did work beyond scope, and so that was his fault. But we came up with a plan, and I worked it out. But I had to take the right approach with him. And yelling it back at him or being loud with him was not going to work. But doing something to build some rapport, I had to say what I had to say about the county screwing him to try to get him to realize you're not talking to just the normal bureaucrat that you run into when you're mad. So that's one of many. I've handled plenty of angry customers over the years. I've found that you have to remain calm, cool, and collected with them. You let them get it out of them, let it come, and then sit down and figure out what they need and how to help them to the best of your ability.
You've touched on this too, but I still would like for you to touch on it a little more. How would you define your core management philosophy, and how do you adapt this approach when collaborating with the diverse groups of department heads, staff, and the city council? And that's my last question.
My core standard is that we're here to serve the public. And if staff's mindset is not that that's our primary mission, they probably should be working somewhere else. And I'm very blunt about that. We're public servants. And public service means we provide services to the public and help them succeed at what they're trying to do as long as it's legal and lawful. No, I will not help somebody build a nuclear reactor in their backyard. And I will bring in code enforcement and whatever I need to stop that. But if a resident of this community needs help, our job is to serve them and to help them figure out how to do what it is they want to do. And that's just a core component of being a public servant. So I don't really compromise on that. We can't always say yes, but we are smart enough to usually figure out a way to get them to where they want to go. No, maybe you can't rebuild old cars in your backyard because of X, Y, and Z. But did you know there's a property available here that the owner's trying to get rid of? You might want to go talk to them and see if you could acquire it. It's zone commercial, and you would be able to do what you want there. So finding solutions to problems is our core commitment.
Thank you.
No more questions.
If we called your last council, and what would they say is your greatest strength and your biggest area of growth?
So strength is I will talk to anybody anytime about anything related to government. In Kodiak, I had to repair relationships with our native tribes and corporations. And so I asked and went and visited every one of our villages, every one of our tribes, spent time with the corporations, and to be real honest, it was real frosty at the beginning. But I told them, look, what's past is past. I can't fix it. I'm not responsible for it. But I'm here to start a new relationship. I'm not that person. I'm not that council. That assembly no longer exists. We want to make things better. So I'm willing to work with anyone that I need to work with. Same goes for politicians. I don't care what letters after their name. If they can help our community, I'll go talk to them. That's just vital in my role to be able to and willing to talk with anybody. They'll tell you my, just call it what it is. Weakness is not only the people that see the glass half full, but those that just don't want to comply with rules when there's no way we as a city are able to change the rules. That drives me insane. If you don't like the state law on an issue, quit complaining to me. I'll tell you who to go talk to. I'll even make the introduction for you, but you can't complain to me. You need to go talk to the people who can help you change the law. And I find that very frustrating that the people won't. They feel passionate about it, but not enough passion to make the effort.
Thank you.
No further questions for me, Mayor.
All right, so I've got one more. Why should this council select you as our next city manager?
Well, I could give you my spiel, but I'll just say this. For those of you in the audience, if you've not sat through very many of these, every one of us has a spiel of why I'm the best. I'll just tell you this. That was a little inside baseball humor for you. I'm very good at what I do. I have been very successful in every community I've served, and I have a sense of humor, and sometimes it's needed because crying is not an option in government or baseball. So, this is a wonderful community. I would be honored to serve here. I also know that you are interviewing another candidate who's also very successful in his endeavors, and it has been truly an honor, though, to be here and to be considered for the position.
Thank you. Any last comments?
No, sir.
All right. Well, we definitely appreciate your coming and applying and flying in and being drilled for all day long. We had multiple one-on-ones, and now we've had this, so it is greatly appreciated, and thank you very much. And I'll do another quick recess while Mr. Powers exits, and then we will reconvene and have a discussion amongst council.
Nice meeting you.
You first, ladies first. Go ahead.
It's very heavy, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Boy, he was long-winded.
Yeah. I sat out there. I wasn't up here. He got appointed.
I started June first, this was the day after Memorial Day.
Of 2016.
Yes.
See, I didn't start coming to the council meetings till around September. I came, because I met Esther in 2016, because we were, the first time I met her, I said, do you know what's wrong with that council? She said, well, a lot of things. I said, I don't know about those. I said, but that's not. And she looked at me and I said,
Well, that's,
I said, and then she looked at me and she said, well, you're right.
Well, how you doing, buddy? I seen you sitting out there, but I can't see real good today.
I ain't seen you in forever. So what, is Olivia still in school or is she out there?
She drove back to Lexington today. She was at home for Christmas break. Thanksgiving, Christmas.
hey,
You know
thanks for that,
Kentucky's David's basketball.
thanks for the 3 million.
Yes, thank you for the 3 million.
I saw you guys, I didn't realize you were there till like a meeting started.
Oh, it was back there, I didn't want to stand, so, yo.
All right, we're going to reconvene. Oh, we're not going to reconvene yet.
She's right.
Hardly all
She's
day.
back there now? Okay.
She's on her way up.
Hardly all day.
Oh, how long's that been on? It's been on all the whole time. So we're waiting on our city clerk to be just another minute. You're welcome. All right, we're going to reconvene. So we've conducted the interviews of the two candidates that we had presented to us. So now the next item on the agenda is a discussion and/or selection of a top candidate for the city manager appointment. Council, floor is open for discussion.
I'm assuming you want to go last.
I don't have a problem.
I'll start it off.
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, I think both candidates are well qualified here, so I have no preference on the qualifications, but Mr. Powell, when I asked a question about leaving, I wasn't completely satisfied on his answers due to the fact of leaving on mutual agreement, because that's a wide open territory. You know, he didn't explain whether it was we give you an ultimatum to resign or we dismiss you. So it's still a big old wide open floor there, so I wasn't satisfied with his answer there. And second thing is, everybody knows how I am with the city's money, okay? If this man gets nominated and accepted, we're gonna have a tremendous expense to move him out here. And the applications was put out everywhere. He applied, and if he accepts, that is of his choice for him to move to the city of East Ridge, not at our expense, at his expense. It's just like me moving to Knoxville. Knoxville's not gonna hire me and pay me to move to Knoxville to become an automobile mechanic again. So those are two cons against Mr. Powell that I've got. And Mr. Owens, when he comes in here, he's already familiar with the TML, the MTAS, our Tennessee state laws. He's familiar with TDOT. He's familiar with everybody that this city right here has to fool with in grants to receive money and stuff. So that is one thing in his favor. And then if we do decide to pay for somebody's moving expense, Fayetteville, Tennessee is a whole lot closer than California. Moving expense would be a whole lot less there, so that is my things, and I'm ready to make my decision, so whenever everybody else gets through with their opinion right here, I'm through.
If I'll address your concern, we can always make, if there's an offer, I'm gonna address your concerns with Mr. Powers. There's always, the offer can be with or without, or a set limit for travel expense. So that's something we always, if that is a decision. So, yep, I figured you did. I just couldn't clarify that. Anyone else?
Well, I'll follow Councilman Cagle's pro-con list here. Cons, obviously, the move is a major shock. For Mr. Owens, big pro. Piggybacking on Councilman Cagle's comments on being involved with the TML, he has also had a working relationship with his state representative and state senator. I did talk to him at great length about that earlier today. The tie he was wearing was a gift from Representative Pat Marsh. He's had time in Nashville and talking to those legislators and getting grants for his city. That's an added bonus. I mean, really, honestly, truly it is, because you know, we have a lot of things going on here in the city. He doesn't have to get up to speed with TML, and you know, things are coming down the pike that will be impacting our city that Mr. Powers will have to. And I felt like he carried himself really well. Mr. Powers has done a fantastic job of doing his homework. He seemed to have a pretty firm grasp of kind of what's going to be facing the city over the next year. I think he touched on it specifically with, in regards to the border region, trying to get as many projects pushed forward as fast as we can. And because it's essential for the economic development of our city to continue. And then the efforts to possibly push for an extension, which I also thought was good on his part to know these things ahead of the time, and be able to vocalize them to the community here. So those are my pros. I share a similar con with Councilman Cagle here, but I felt both candidates are extremely qualified and articulate in their duties as city managers, and I feel that these were great choices. And I would like to restate, and maybe I haven't done it yet, but I was concerned when we were handed two candidates. I share the sentiments of some of the other council members that it would have been great to be handed a handful of candidates to pick through, but I feel like the city manager and Mrs. Senegalio and the staff at MTAS had done a great job at handing us two extremely qualified and well-polished candidates. So I'd like to thank them again for their efforts in this.
I too liked both candidates, but I too feel like Mr. Owens has some value with the TML. Didn't he say he held a position with them at this time? Yes.
It was either TML or it's MTAS. He was on the board.
MTAS?
Yes.
Okay. But I did like both of them. But answering Jackie's question, I used to manage the unemployment office, and there's a lot of times when you are discharged or you mutually leave a job when there really wasn't any misconduct on your part, especially in politics. It's just not working out, as the council may decide they want to get rid of you, not because you did anything wrong, just because if you're not fitting into what they want to do anymore. So sometimes when you look at that, you see things differently. So that didn't bother me, because I felt like the answers that he gave you and the things that he had accomplished, those were good.
I thought both candidates did a good job answering questions. I thought one was a little long-winded, but it is true that Mr. Owens did, since he's in Fayetteville, Tennessee, he does know a little bit more. Not a whole lot, but I stem back to the questions when I had a one-on-one with each one of them. And those questions, I won't tell you about them, but the answers I got probably leads me to believe that I don't know that I would choose either one. There was questions about certain things that they couldn't answer, period. And it wasn't that hard, but they chose not to answer it for fear, I guess, they would get a different outcome up here. So I would like to see us, I know everybody wants to make a selection, I guess, I'm not sure, but I think we ought to think a little bit about it and make our decisions on council night. That's it.
That's it. So, just so everyone knows, everyone up here had a one-on-one with each one of the candidates and spent time with them today. I think also the department heads had some time to get to know and have discussion with them. There's a lot to take in. Mr. Owens does have Tennessee experience. He has some longevity at work. Mr. Powers, I can also understand a change in council, other directions change, and whether he was forced to leave or forced to resign or it was mutual, you know, we're not sure about that. We can ask if we want to follow up, if he was willing to explain. Me personally, it's been a long day. I would like to, I know that there's several citizens in here that are attended this. I know there's some that's going to be watching it. I also know that I'd like to get some feedback from department heads. I am not in a position ready to make a decision tonight, personally. I think getting some feedback, thinking, going back through my notes, going back through the interviews tonight, I feel I will convey Mr. Councilman Ezell's that I feel that we ought to, I'd personally prefer to wait to Thursday to make a decision. Whether that is one, or the other, or none?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you and Councilman Ezell both expressed caution moving forward. I think it's a good idea. Especially allowing for some public feedback. I've spent, I don't think the public's ever blown my phone or email up like they have in the last week and a half. They're very interested in this process. I think they are integral to how we proceed. And so while allowing for public feedback, I'm encouraging all members of the public and city staff that have listened to this interview, whether it was here live or on Facebook or YouTube, tell us what you think. It's important. We need to get your input. This is your city as well, and I think it's paramount that they are included in the process.
We work for the citizens. The city manager as well. The entire staff does. So it is vital we get the right person. We've gone so far so well, and thank you for your leadership and coming back and avoid and filling those shoes. But we do. The department heads and the employees are working directly for this person, so I feel it's important that I personally want to have some feedback from department heads, and like I said earlier, and you're restating what I'm saying, and citizens' input, because I also have been contacted and emailed and called. So that's my vote, is to wait till Thursday, get some feedback, me digest a lot of my notes, and us make a decision on Thursday.
Just to be clear, not this Thursday with the food truck.
That is
ordinance.
correct. It is the regular council scheduled meeting. Thank you for clarification. 22nd?
The food truck ordinance is going to eat up a lot of my attention.
Right, but the 22nd is the next council meeting.
Council meeting.
Yes.
We're off the 19th too, Monday, MLK.
Okay. Don't think we have to have a vote, just consensus. Does everyone agree?
The
And here-
citizens that are here tonight, are we gonna hear from them?
That's next.
That's
Yes,
next
that,
on the agenda.
when we shut down our discussion, then absolutely. Anything else?
I would just like to thank Mr. Miller and his team again for doing all
Absolutely.
this work, because as Jackie pointed out the last time, they gave us a stack of applications. We were the ones that went through those, and y'all put in a lot more work. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Greatly appreciated.
Bless you.
Anything else? Okay, we're moving from the discussion to communications from citizens. So this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to come forward, address the council, provide some comments, feedback. I do ask to be respectful of the candidates, if there's any comments directly toward any of those, but you're more than welcome. You have up to 5 minutes if anyone wants to come forward. If you'll give us your name and address for the record. Can you hit that button? The button right there on the bottom? Now say it. Is it better? Speak a little closer into it.
Hang on, there we go, how about now? Melissa Quintrell, 1036 Hurst Street.
Ah.
Okay. I would just like to say that I agree with you guys. I really liked both candidates. Respectfully, I would hope that we would pay a moving package. Like, I would want my tax dollars to go to a moving package to pay the best qualified candidate to come to our city. So I know I don't speak for all the citizens, but please pick the most qualified candidate. That being said, Mr. Powers did make one derogatory remark that could apply to some of the citizens in our community. So I hope that you guys will consider that little joke that he made when you're making your decision. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Same thing. Name and address, please.
Yeah, Yeah, my name is Tyler Capper, 68 Avenue. Under the pros and cons of the second gentleman, he said his most frustration is pretty much people not agreeing with him. If you have to explain something to the citizens one or twice, and well, that's gonna happen. There's a lot of people, short amount of time. He's gonna be very busy throughout the day. He's gonna have to take that time to delegate with many issues with many different citizens. Some citizens, there might be 5 that has the same problems. I feel like by after about 2 or 3, he's gonna get very frustrated dealing with the same topic, and then he's not gonna listen very well. That's one thing. Second is what Jackie brought up with the moving expense. I, as a citizen, pays taxes here. If I move different jobs never paid me. If you make the personal choice to move, that is your choice between you, your family, him and his wife, his kids, foster kids, anybody, including the one from Alabama. Short distance, long distance, the citizen should not pay for that. That is a personal decision. If you are choosing to go somewhere, that's your choice, your cost. I would have liked to seen, was there any applicants? I don't know if you can answer this or not. Was there any local
No.
candidates? None?
No, sir. 2 from Tennessee. We had probably half a dozen from California, Oregon.
It's discouraging to hear that, but I would have liked to seen some more local candidates, obviously.
We tried talking to several city managers that I'm aware of around the area. They're satisfied where they are located now, and they didn't want to move here.
Yeah, I made some personal phone calls, and
Mayor did the same thing.
And just out of my last thing, just out of curiosity, if y'all choose not to hire one of the 2, have y'all been looking at the other applicants and trying to figure out if there was a better option other than the 2 that presented to us today?
I would not have presented. We started off with 29. We narrowed it down to 8. Of those 8, we went through, we did an exhaustive background research through Google on all of them, found out things that, let's just put it this way, there were skeletons in the closet on some of them. And as a 45-year city manager in 10 cities and 6 states, we decided that we eliminated 3 of those. We ended up doing Zoom interviews on 5 of them. Of those 5, we eliminated 1. We felt 3 of us, he was not qualified enough to handle this position. That remained 4. On the December 8th meeting, I had 4 candidates to present before the city council. One of them dropped out because of salary. Salary was a heck of a lot more where he's coming from and was not in a position to take a pay cut of that magnitude. I don't blame him.
Right.
I really don't blame
Everybody's
him.
got it.
And the second one did not come because of a personal appointment that she had already pretty well taken care of on the same night. So that left us 2 dropped out. That left me 2. To go back, if the council wanted to and directs me to want to bring back any of these other 2 or 3, that's their choice, but it's not mine.
so our options is if these 2 we don't feel comfortable, then you consider a higher pay, or you revisit the lady that had opted to go for an interview in another location to see if that didn't work out, or if she's still interested here, or you reopen all applications again and start fielding new applicants.
Would you offer her this type of form where the citizens
Yes.
come back and listen?
Let me basically say first, a lot of you have expressed a concern about California. She's from California too.
Well, it's not a great thing
I'm
for
just
Tennessee,
being up and,
but
She's originally from
it is,
Texas,
it
but
is.
she is
You
in
know,
California now.
Having been in this field for as long as I have, I've probably had 24 interviews in my whole entire career. My first one for the job was in 1974, at 24 years of age, looking for a city manager position. I I know how frustrating it is sitting where I am now and knowing that I didn't get as many local, when we say local, Tennessee, we got a handful, we probably got 3 or 4 from Georgia. However, some of the applicants that put in for this position, of the 29, they said we narrowed down to 8. 21 had no city manager experience whatsoever, none. One was a public works, public services director, another for a city, another one was another position, procurement, no city manager experience at all. I'm sorry, but our city is up and coming. We're an active city. We have needs, we have issues, we have challenges. City manager's got it. We were looking for at least someone that had 3 years experience. That's still not a lot of experience, but we eliminated 21 because they had no city manager experience at all. Just because you're a manager of a fast food service doesn't mean you can come in here and run a city. Seriously.
Right.
Seriously. But a lot of people feel that they can. What do they know about police? What do they know about fire? I see a lot of firemen out there. What do you know about fire apparatus? What do you know about supplies? What do you know about equipment?
Absolutely.
What about, what do you do when you're looking at the cost for fire trucks and things? You got to know those kind of things, or at least be exposed to them. We had 21 that weren't even in the ballpark. So
I think y'all have a difficult decision at hand if it has to be one of those two. Like Jackie mentioned, the other one has a little bit of knowledge for TDOT, some of the that we have to go through. Might be the best case, but also another thing to look at is y'all have to make decisions, and that whoever y'all choose has to be the person to direct. I feel like both of them I feel like they would be hard to direct. One is really good at talking, and the other one may not be as well at talking, maybe clear directions. Not to be mean, but more of like, you gotta be stern. If there's issues within a certain department, you have to be a certain way to handle it. You don't have to be a jerk or anything, but there has to be a certain level of understanding that you have to give your employees, to give your department heads, for them to be able to do their job effectively for the citizens. You can only ask please so many times, if that makes sense. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Tyler.
just for your information and the public's, we actually had job postings in the International City Management Association newsletter that comes out weekly, ICMA Tennessee chapter, MTAS, TML, city website, Facebook, we had to pay for that, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
So those are all the areas that we put, and I only got 29 resumes.
I say the effort. I mean, you can't help who applies. I wish there would have been more.
I do too. I wish there would have been more, and I wish there would have been more in Tennessee. The mayor and I tried with personal connections that we had in the state. They were satisfied. They were doing well where they were. They didn't necessarily want to leave there and come here. You also got to remember too, and I've been through this. If I was an active city manager and not retiring, if I put in for another job somewhere else, once you are a top candidate, that press calls the mayor and the council from the city that you are managing. And they're gonna come to you and basically say, what the heck is going on? Why are you dissatisfied here? I'll give you a little example. When I was in city manager in Oakland Park, I was being recruited from Pompano Beach. The council knew about it because it was the paper. I mean, close to each other. I didn't get the job. They turned around and gave it to the fire chief or the police chief. I can't remember which one. He knew the city. Why not put him into the position? I got recruited again for Boynton Beach about 6 months later. The council basically said, you must be dissatisfied with your position here. because word got back that I was a candidate, top candidate for Boynton Beach. Thank God I got that job, because if I would have stayed in Oakland Park, I would have had 5 council members that would have said, well, where's he applying now? You can't get into, everything has to be open to the public. Once you become a top candidate, wherever you are, that press is gonna call the council and say, hey, he applied here. Hey, he applied here. You can't stop that. It's, you know, it's public information once you get that top candidates. So a lot of city managers, if they like where they're at, they really think twice. If I go ahead and put in for that position and I become a top candidate, and that press is gonna get hold of that and call my, how are they going to react? Especially if you don't get the job.
Yeah, I guess another thing to really look at is, you know, maybe who switched jobs the most, and he brought up a good question too, that there was, I guess for me, like, how did those jobs leave?
Right.
Because he, could have been some real issues there that was like, all right, well, I can't fix it, you can't fix it, we'll just part ways. So good things could have been bad. He brought up a good point, that's something. It's a big thing too, but if you are given more time, maybe you ought to go back and get clarifications on that back again. That would be a big help, I'm sure, to the citizens too, especially if it comes back to an open forum or however you ought to decide.
Yeah, well, if this is postponed or not decided upon, it'll be open forum on the next, week from Thursday's council meeting. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Sabrina Daniel, 4410 Maryland Drive, and I am a retired teacher, and I sort of filter lots of things through the grid of children and how decisions are going to affect them. So I listened. I got here late because I was at another required meeting, but I heard the first gentleman and the second gentleman, and the first gentleman seems to have that you have 2 great candidates here, and I'm not envious of your positions here, but the first guy seemed to have how do I want to say this, a little smoother presentation in terms of interpersonal, it seemed to me, which again, there's pros and cons. You can say, well, not strong enough. Well, if you run everybody off, you're not going to have anybody to work for you either. So that was something. And then the fact that he has been in Tennessee is a plus to me. I'm very sad that you do not have any professional, local, in the region candidates. That's very, very distressing. When I make decisions, I'm a retired teacher on a fixed income. I consider 6 options, and I pick the most reliable and the least expensive. I appreciate that you flew somebody in. That's fine, especially since it's hard to find people to apply for this. I absolutely would not want my tax dollars going to move people here. I've lived in different places. Nobody who ever hired me moved me. So I don't think that's taxpayers' responsibility. In terms of the other gentleman, I think he would have a learning curve when he came here. I think that he made it clear he's not exactly what we think of California, and I get that. I do think he is a little bit more, that interpersonally it might be a little more difficult for him. But probably, you know, I'm going to be all right, however y'all choose to do, but it's a long process, but it would be nice if we had more than 2. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I see no one else.
No, I see a lot of employees out there. If you don't want to come forward, I'm still in my office, so let me know your feelings. You know where I am,
Absolutely.
so you don't want to speak in public, stop by and let me know.
All right, yes, sir. You made the cut, barely.
Marty Von
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Marty Von Schaaf, 6821 Village Lake Circle. First of all, I think everyone did a great job with questioning these fellows, and they did a good job answering. But I like your decision to carry it forward with more discussion before you make the final decision, because you are tired right now. I'm tired. I've been here with you, and you have to make a clear-headed decision. One of the things I heard the mayor mention that I think you should, and it's not going to be a popular suggestion, but I'm going to throw it out there, with no offense meant for City Manager Miller, but you manage more money. You mentioned more money. I got a little Bichon dog, and that dog is finicky. We started out giving him hard food, then he quit eating it. So we put a little soft food in it with hard, and then he ate it, then he quit. Then we put cheese on it, and he finally decided to eat that. And finally, the last couple of days, my wife had to buy some little niblet things that are appetizers, and he ate. So what I'm saying, the example that I'm giving that is maybe one of the reasons we didn't get more qualified candidates from not necessarily Tennessee, might be somebody laying out there that we don't know about, but Georgia, Alabama, surrounding states. If there was more money on there, if there was some cheese on there, who knows that you might not, if you continue the search, who knows that you might not get someone else that's very qualified. And sometimes you got to you got to pay a little bit more to get the really good stuff. This man, from all I know about him, has done a great job for the city of East Ridge. We need, let me tell you what we need. We need another Scott Miller. And so it might cost a little bit more to get the better product.
Can you give me 10 years?
Sir?
I just need 10 years. I'll be 76 this month. I know, I understand that, but my outside may not look it, but my inside screams. And that's why I need to retire. I don't want to. I started this field in 1974 as a finance director right out of grad school. And I'd love to put another 5 years into here. I'd love to make 50 years. My inside's not going to make it.
I appreciate it. So God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So would you say that our salary is competitive?
When you look at the, okay, the city of Collegedale just hired their new city manager. They started him at $150,000. I'm making 140 with a 137 plus 6,000. Okay, that's what, $143,000 I'm making. But city doesn't have to pay a pension for him because I'm already on Social Security. I already have 2 pensions from previous jobs. You don't pay me full medical because I'm on Medicare. I've been on that since 65. So kind of got a bargain with me coming back, but it was, really, seriously, I came back for 6 months. I enjoyed it. The council talked to me over and over again. Andy Witt said, the best Christmas present you can give me in 2022 is to stay on for a while. And I ended up doing that. When you look at the salary, it's hard to say what would be a good salary for a city manager coming in. Probably $150,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't necessarily think it'd be more than that. We are a larger community than Collegedale. We have different challenges at Collegedale. Collegedale is dealing in new developments. However, we're dealing with a lot of redevelopment. We've got housing going on, housing being built in various developments throughout the city. So maybe looking at 150,000. And the same benefit package. We have a good benefit package here with the City of East Ridge. It's just I came in at a good time. Money wasn't the biggest issue on my plate, which is staying busy and helping the community. So I don't know what the right answer to that would be. How much more would we need to provide? But I do know if you're bringing a guy in at 137, 138, when you got a manager in Collegedale with a population of 12, 13,000 making 150, that ain't gonna work. Right off the bat, that's not gonna work. Do managers look at other salaries of other? You bet they do. Absolutely. So that's my comments.
And even though we go with the larger salary, you can't guarantee that we're gonna get our money's worth out of that person. He may turn out not to be exactly what we thought we were gonna get for the money. You never know. It's a hard decision.
You know, the hardest decision in regard to recruiting a city manager, as I have been involved in other cities that I have left, going all the way back to the city of East Detroit, Michigan, back in 1982. It's not necessarily the credentials that you put on paper. It's the feeling and relationship that you have with your elected body. That's the key issue right there in the community. Do you love the community? Is it a community that you like, really like, and want to put the time into it? It's a feeling that that individual has, that bonding feeling that you meet with the council members one-on-one in interview session like we had tonight, the questions that are asked of them and how they respond. You're never guaranteed. I've seen guys walk in and be appointed by the city council and took the job that had a heck of a lot, probably more credentials and accomplishments than I had. That lasted a year, let go for whatever reason. So it comes down to how do you feel that you can work with that city manager that you just had a one-on-one with, that you had an interview with. Do you feel that he'll do a good job for you? Those are the kind of credentials I look at.
Thank you, sir, for all you and Michelle and MTAS for, again, we all thanked you. There's been a lot of work and effort. So I don't think we're making a decision tonight. So council members, we do have a challenging decision to make in about a little over a week. I think if there's any follow-up questions, probably let you know if we have follow-up questions for some of the candidates.
Absolutely.
To your point, you didn't feel you got a question answered, so we can do that, and then we'll share that with every council member. And that being said, if there's nothing else, council.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's something in our city charter that states if we appoint a city manager so close to a re-election, to election, what is he guaranteed that the new council can't come in and terminate him after they get sworn in?
Well, most city managers, when they take a job, have a clause in that contract called severance pay. Severance is usually 6 months. I have seen in some instances in Florida, and by the way, Florida has changed the law down there because you had city managers that were actually having contracts, 2 or 3 year contracts, and if they were fired in the first year, the city council had to buy out their 3-year contract. Like the coaches for NFL, look at that. But since I think the last 5 years, Florida legislature has put a stop to that. So most of them have, most contracts have a 6-month severance. When I worked for the city, my first stint, I had a 6-month severance in there. And usually that's standard.
Well, I understand the severance, but I'm talking about now, if we prolong this and put this back out for more applications,
Right.
all right, that's gonna put us a couple of more months out into the field. All right, our elections, our new officers are gonna be sworn in on December, the first Monday in December.
Right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, there's a clause in there that says the new council, when they're sworn in, cannot just come in the day after and terminate him, and then they pay him the 6-month severance. But I think there's a clause in our thing there.
I think it was 90 days.
It's 90 days.
Yeah, it's 90
Okay.
days.
But there's also provision that once you appoint, when you have a 1 year, you can't terminate them for under 12 months. So
Okay, that's what I
still
was
got
trying
that
to get
provision
clear
in
there.
That's city charter.
yeah, sections 5K and
Okay.
But the reason why I'm asking that question, if we go ahead and make a decision on one of these two, when does that time frame come into effect by the, is it 90 days after then?
well, I mean, the provision 5F provides that council will fix the salary of the city manager, serve at the will, and that he may not be removed for 12 months from the date on which that city manager assumes his or her duties, except for certain circumstances, which,
So,
but that's,
so
you still got a
actually,
year
so
anyway.
actually he has a 6 months, I mean, a year. Right, not a 6-month severance, he's got a year.
Mhm.
Okay. That answers.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. Your attendance, thoughts, comments is greatly appreciated. We'll reconvene at the regular scheduled council meeting on the 22nd to rediscuss this and make a determination.